So ladies and gentlemen, with another skirmish season just around the corner, I figure now is a better time than ever to show off my Riptide Blitz deck. I'm going to have some gameplay after I show you the deck, but I want to take a moment to actually show you the deck, and I love doing these actual, like showing you the real cards, deck lists instead of just Fabrary. That's just a personal thing, but let's just get into it. So obviously the hero is Riptide, and for those of you who don't know, Riptide's ability says whenever a trap triggers, you deal 1 damage to the opponent, and whenever you play a card from hand, you can put a card face down in your arsenal. So basically, every time you play a card from hand, it gets reload, basically giving all your cards reload if they're played from hand, which is, obviously really powerful, and allows you to play like multiple arrows and play like your arrows stronger without worrying about pitching into your bow. However, for our bow, we're actually going to be using Death Dealer as our main bow, simply because, well, it's Death Dealer. You can't really beat pitch 1, draw a card, and load an arrow. It's really hard to beat. And for our quiver, we're going to be using Quiver of Abyssal Depths. This allows you to pitch 3 to take 3 arrows from your graveyard and shuffle them back into your deck. This allows you to kind of win the fatigue game, because that's always been a big problem with Ranger is, they're pretty susceptible to fatigue. But with Quiver, you can go activate Quiver, load 3 more arrows from your graveyard into your deck, and keep the pressure going. I will say, however, to be careful to make sure you always have an arrow, a 0-cost arrow, in your graveyard, because otherwise it could really screw up your Codex of Frailty plays and really make it a lot harder to play. It's just something to keep in mind. But yeah, that is it for the main weapon loadout. Let's get into the main equipment. So for the headpiece, we're going to be using Crown of Providence. For the chest, we're going to be using Trench of the Sunken Treasure. For the arms, Bullseye Bracers. And for the legs, Snapdragon Scalers. Now, this is pretty standard. I know a lot of Riptides really like using New Horizons. However, in Blitz, I don't feel like I ever get enough value out of New Horizons. I feel like it's usually a 2-block, and with Crown of Providence, it really helps you fix those brick hands that you sometimes get as a Ranger by just throwing this in front, sinking a card, and hopefully drawing something better. Trench allows you to not Arsenal lock yourself. If you Arsenal a trap and your opponent just passes, you can go activate it, sink, get a resource, activate Death Dealer, draw another card, and essentially replace your arsenal. It's like Crown of Seas with extra steps. And then these two are basically for continually applying pressure. If you have like endless arrows or something, or if you have 2 0-cost arrows like drill shot and endless arrows, you can fire it, gives it go again, and if you don't have a pump or if you only have 1 card left, activate Bullseyes, fire for 5 more, and that's a quarter of their life in Blitz, so that is some pretty serious pressure there. But you'll see more of that in the actual gameplay. And then for the sideboard, you have Skullbone Crosswrap, basically just for the Arcane Barrier when you're facing against Emperor, or Blaze, as now is going to be a risk, because having AB 3 with Trench and Bullseyes is going to be very important. I feel like you do have enough resources, especially with your blue traps, to just have AB3, and it is worth it in my opinion, at least when facing Blaze. And you also have Balance of Justice. This is for the ninja matchups like Zen, and for the brute matchups where they play like Bloodrush Bellows, because you can block 2 and draw a card off of this. It is arguably better than Crown, because you're straight just gaining a card instead of Crown forcing you to cycle a card, but not every deck draws 2 as consistently, so Balance is there for those. You also have Dreadbore in the sideboard for any sort of fatigue decks, or if you are facing a deck that is running like a shitload of defense reactions, Dreadbore is the answer there, because it makes it so much more difficult for them to actually block. It forces them to arsenal defense reactions before playing them, which is absolutely fantastic. But it's only really worth it in some matchups. I still feel like you can't really beat just like drawing an extra card with Death Dealer, but that's just my opinion. And finally, for some sideboard arrows, you also have Battering Bolt for your mainly your MST matchups, like your Enigma, your Zen, your New. It snipes those Transcend cards, and you can also put it in I also like putting it in the Warrior and the Assassin matchup, because it snipes out any reaction cards out of their hands. So like if you're facing New and you throw this, you can take out not only their Transcend cards, but all their reaction cards, like Justinic, like everything that they could have. You also run 2 Murkmires for obvious reasons. We have Drill Shot in the main deck, but this is for the Enigma matchup and the Prism matchup technically, or the new Prism matchups I should say. But because Drill Shot doesn't really do much against illusionists like Enigma, having the ability to making this, because this is non-preventable, this basically allows you to on hit clear Enigma's whole board, which can be really fantastic, especially with how much you can pump it. So that's it for the sideboard. Now we're going to finally, without further ado, get into the actual main deck. So we're going to start with the arrows. So first, for our sources of go again, we have Red Bolt and Shot. yellow Bolt and Shot, and red Falcon Wing. So contrary to popular belief, you don't actually need that much Go Again. I personally feel like this is enough Go Again in the deck, because even firing 2 arrows, 2 big arrows, a turn will usually get you the tempo, more or less. Worst case scenario, you still have stuff like Bullseye Bracers and Snaps to fire an extra arrow if you really, really need to, but just having this package of like these 6 Go Again arrows usually is enough to have enough Go Again to take the tempo in a Blitz game. And for my other Go Again arrow, or not my Go Again, for my other 0 cost arrows, I have Endless Arrows and Drill Shot. Pretty simple. Endless Arrows allows you to put it back in your hand, arsenal it, and make it for another 0 for 4, or at the very worst, an extra resource off a trench. And Drill Shot, this is really good in those matchups like Brute, like Guardian, where they have like fridges, and you really need to like chip through them, so you can throw this really big, and if it hits, put a -1 counter on their equipment. Really, really good. You can never deny the value of taking some equipment. Now, for our more expensive arrows, I have 1 Murky Water, 2 Remorseless, and 2 Infecting Shot. Infecting Shot is just a straight 1 for 7, because if it hits, you get a Blood Rot Pox, or your opponent gets a Blood Rot Pox, and they need to either pay 3 or take 2 damage, so functionally a 1 for 7. Remorseless, it's really, really good against those aggro decks that want to play a lot of action cards like Ninja, like in the Ranger Mirror, for example, when they want to go pump, pump, pump arrow, you can ping them for 1 life each time. And Murky Water is an interesting tech choice that I've been testing out, and I've personally been kind of happy with. So like the thing with Murky Water is you usually want to pitch this and have it in your pitch stack for second cycle. And then what you do is off of this and a blue, you can pitch, load it, and fire it. And if it hits, you can then grab a trap, and then you guarantee, like if it's late game, you guarantee to have like that 1 ping of damage. And if they're at 1 life, that could be enough to either have them like do a really garbage turn or just like end the game there. Because like late game, if they can't really block that well and they need to take that 1 damage, or if you're pumping it to like 9 or 12, you're almost certainly going to get a trap. And just having that trap, having that insurance of like, if you do something, if you give a card Go Again, if you buff your card, I'm going to win the game, is like really, really good, I found, when the game goes longer. It's pretty useful. You don't use the aim counter effect because I personally don't like game counters all that much, but just the effect of being able to like recycle a trap is really, really good in my opinion, especially late game. And next we're going to get into the pump cards. So we're playing Lace with Inertia, Lace with Frailty, Lace with Blood Rot, Premeditate, Release Tension, and Seek and Destroy. Now, I'm running a lot of them, obviously, because you want to see at least 1 in your hand at all times. Mainly for your 0 costs, but, I find that what you're going to notice in this deck is I actually don't have stuff like Enlightened Strike, I don't have Ravenous Rabble, I don't have Scar for Scar, because I find that those generic cards really clog up my hand quite a bit, and every time I've like played a game and I've had like an E-Strike, an Arrow, and a Pump, I'm like, wow, I really wish this was another Pump, so I could actually present some like on-hit damage that like actually matters, because like raw damage doesn't really matter, and having more on hits, having more ability to disrupt your opponent is really, really, really good. Especially Release Tension, being able to stop them from having defense reactions, especially if you combine it, if you're playing like Dreadbore in a matchup and you can just completely shut off their defense reactions, is fantastic. Premeditate's also really good, and just, they're in general really, really good. That's pretty standard for pumps. I also have Rain Razors. It's pretty obvious, giving all your arrows +2. At worst, you can probably turn this into a 1 card 4. At best, you can turn it into a 1 card 6 or 8 if you are, if you play it well enough. And finally, in terms of non-attack actions, we have 2 Codex of Frailty. It's pretty standard. This is probably the best card Rangers and Assassins have in their arsenal, simply because, you can grab any, like, 0 cost and rip a card out of their hand, which, if it's late game, and, like, let's say you fire, Bolt and Shot for 7, and they're giving you, like, 2 cards, and they're at, like, really low health, and they don't have armor. You can go, okay, fire Bolt and Shot, okay, activate Codex, grab, like, Endless Arrow, and then force damage through while ripping a card from their hand, which is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, and giving them a Frailty and giving you an arsenal. It is just really, really, really good. And finally, we're going to get into the bread, the butter, the absolute meat of this deck, which is the traps. This is the thing that Riptide has over Azalea, which personally I think is what makes him better in Blitz. Azalea usually likes to take a lot of damage in order to throw bigger attacks, but you don't have that life like wall, you don't have that life insurance that you do in CC. So this is what kind of gives Riptide that edge in Blitz, in my opinion at least. So the traps, we are running 2 Frailty Trap, 2 Inertia Trap, 2 Tar Pit Trap, and then 1 of each of the legendary traps. So let me explain each of these, starting with Frailty Trap. Frailty Trap is pretty standard for traps. If it has Go Again, you get a Frailty token. This works against daggers, this works against Kodachis, this works against the Tiger Taming Kakra. Basically every deck has Go Again. Almost every deck has Go Again or wants Go Again. So, you know, having the ability to just punish them for doing basically what they already want to do, fantastic. Inertia Trap's also pretty standard, really good against any deck that wants to buff their stuff. So like Boltyn, like Ranger, like Ninja, like Zen really wants to buff stuff. Like Enigma with the +1 counters, really good. And denying them an arsenal, denying them that 5-card hand is really strong. Tar Pit Trap, this is really good in the age of Assassins, because if they like go like, okay, I'm throwing my dagger, you can go, okay, move to reactions, Tar Pit Trap, there you go, shuts off their attack reactions. You save the 5-card hand to go like Bonds of Agony, you threw your dagger, nope, I'm going to throw this in front, I'm going to prevent that Bonds of Agony from hitting, no matter how many reactions you put, that's all raw damage now, I do not care. Collapsing Trap takes basically their whole hand, because if it has Go Again, you block, they discard their whole hand and draw that many cards -1. And also, funny enough, you can actually combo this with Balance of Justice. If they have a 5-card hand and you activate this and they draw 2 cards, you can crack Balance and draw another card. So you are screwing them over and you are benefiting by drawing an extra card by activating your trap, which is a really interesting thing. Then there's Buzzsaw Trap. This is really good against basically, again, Warrior, Assassins. If New is making that Bonds of Agony like 11, buffing it up to 11, you can go, nope, Buzzsaw, that goes back down to 1. You're done. And finally, Spike Pit Trap. I used to hate this trap. I used to be like, oh my god, this trap is so bad, because I never really felt like I got use out of it. Even in, Warrior matchups, even in Assassin matchups, I just never felt like I got value out of it. Now, with New, with all the new stealth cards, kind of like some of the new ones requiring you to at least have some sort of reaction to get value out of them, Spike Pit Trap is fantastic. Blocking with it, blocking 3, sniping a card from the top of their deck, and pinging them for at least 2. This card is at the very least a 1-card 5, because you are blocking 3, you're pinging 1 from Riptide's effect, because the trap triggers, and you're pinging 1 by sending the top card of their deck to the graveyard, and because there's at least 1 card with that name from you sending it, that is 1 more damage. So you're at the very least getting 5 points of damage value off of 1 card. It's similar with stuff like Buzzsaw Trap. The value can be absolutely like insane. Like this can be a 1 card like 10 if you're blocking something big. And also, if you're playing against Boltyn specifically, and they're like, okay, Lumina, okay, Fire Raiden, you can be like, okay, Buzzsaw, can't get Go Again because it's at its base. And yeah, same thing with Collapsing. Like, even if you're discarding 1 card, assuming 1 card is 3 points of value, that is 6 value off of 1 card. That is just like insane numbers. Like when you actually break down the implied value of all these like legendary traps, they're like just insane 1 card value. Like it is nuts. Not to mention that like these other traps also have like really good implied value, like shutting off a whole like like a whole like either surgical or leave the witnesses. Like that's really good. Denying them a 5-card hand, shutting off their daggers, punish, and like not to mention just the the pings you get to do throughout the game. It is fantastic. Not to mention these are all also blues, so you are more than likely, if you're like if you see these early and you like don't need them, you can pitch them away. And see them in your pitch stack. And late game, when your opponent's trying to chip damage or trying to do like that last 1 point of damage, like let's say you're playing against Zen and like you're seeing this and it's like later in the game, you somehow lived that long, or actually let's not say Zen, let's say like Arakni Solitary Confinement or like New or something like that, and they're like throwing a dagger and they're trying to do that last bit of damage. Losing even a couple cards late game can be crucial, can be like really damaging. Like losing that many cards at that point in the game, especially when you're close to fatigue, and especially how quickly that can happen in like Blitz, simply because your deck is so much smaller. It is absolutely like fantastic. So that is basically it for the main deck. In terms of how to actually sideboard, I already explained how to mainly sideboard, but the other thing I want to add is like with Murky Water, if you really want to replace this with like a Battering Bolt and just run like 2 battering bolts, one on the main, one on the side. I wouldn't blame you for that, honestly. I just personally really like running Murky Water. I think the art's cool, and I think it does have value, but if you would rather just have another battering bolt, totally valid. I wouldn't even blame you for that. But yeah, that's about it for the actual deck tech. In terms of tokens, you really only need Inertia, Ponder, Blood Rot, and Frailty. But yeah, that is basically it. I'm going to go into my gameplay videos, and I will have more tips for you there. Okay, so this is going to be game 1 against Vynnset as Riptide. The equipment loadout stays basically the same. We already have Arcane Barrier in the form of Trench and Bullseyes, and the main deck stays basically the same. So, submit. Here we go. Okay, so this is a pretty good hand so far. We got a 0-cost arrow, which is really good for the 1-2 card hands, and then 2 pumps, which is really good. Then we also have a 1-cost arrow, which is potentially really good. We can pitch into Death Dealer, load Infecting Shot, draw, pump, fire. The reason why we would want to draw off a Death Dealer off of that is just in case we get a better pump, because Release Tension is good, but against a deck like Vynnset, where like their defense reactions are pretty limited. Not limited, but like not many. You don't really need it, but eh. Okay, so they're in Funeral Moon. Alright, so we're gonna pitch Death Dealer, loading. It's also good to have Bolton shots for late game. This is actually good. Yeah, now we can pitch deck this Murky Water for late game, because Murky Water is a really good late game card. So we're just gonna go pretty basic pump into Infecting Shot for 12, or no, not 12, 11, which is pretty good. They can't play D-Reacts from Arsenal, so if they have a well, no, actually, Vynnset, never mind, I scratched that, I lied. Vynnset does have quite a few, or a couple defense reactions. They have, Reduced to Rune Chance, that's the one I'm thinking of. Reduced to Rune Chance and Sigil of Suffering. So if they have either of those in their arsenal, they're going to be basically useless now. And I'm threatening a Ponder on hit, which is obviously really good. Sets up an arsenal, gives me, at the very worst, 1 extra resource, which I can just pitch in a Death Dealer, reload, draw a fresh new card. So no matter what, I'm getting a 5-card hand, which is fantastic. And they're going to declare no blocks, which is really good. Already getting that Infecting Shot. Again, they're getting that Blood Rot. I'm getting that Ponder. And then I'm just going to pass. Seek and Destroy. Really good arsenal target. And a Codex. That's really, really, really good. Don't have as many 0 costs, but that's, you know what, that's okay. That is okay. And this is perfect if they play Mob Skies, because then we can just go, you know, Tar Pit, prevent the extra Rune Chance, perfect, and perfect Shadow Puppetry, yes. So they're not going to be able to banish that extra card off of when it hits, so they won't be able to get an extra card in their banish zone, which is great, And we're waiting. Worst case scenario, what we can do is we can go block, Tar Pit, and then just go Codex into, or play this Codex into Falcon Wing Fire for 6, which is a pretty good 2-card hand. This has no, we don't care about the arcane damage here, because this does not have an on damage effect. It's just raw damage. What we really care about is the well, even the Shadow Puppetry we are okay with. So that's 10. That is a lot of damage. Yeah, okay, decided. We're gonna block 5, sinking the arsenal, drawing a fresh new card, and then firing Tar Pit. Yes, okay, this is what we wanted, because now they're not going to be able to banish the extra card off Shadow Puppetry, and we do have a yellow, so we can go Yellow Pitch, load Remorseless with Death Dealer, fire it, play Snapdragons, give it go again, activate Codex, grab Falcon Wing, fire another card. That is what we ultimately want to do here, because we want to keep the pressure going. Remorseless is a really good on hit, which is why I was kind of iffy, and Falcon Wing's in the graveyard, which allows us to activate Codex off of it, which is really, really good. And this is another reason why I run Crown over New Horizons, because with New Horizons I couldn't do this play. This would just not be a possible play, because New Horizons only gives you an extra arsenal, which you can't use, which if I had to block there, I wouldn't have gotten any value off of it. Off of having that extra arsenal slot, but I do get value off of Crown, because now with Crown, And he's got Revel in Runeblood. Crap. Okay, that changes things. Because that's 4 plus 6, that's going to be 10. That is exactly lethal. Shite. Okay. We're going to let the Rune Chance hit, because we're not going to get full value off of pitching into them currently. We're going to lose the top card of our deck, which is fine. We don't really care that much about it. And the thing with Vynnset is they're have really strong power turns, but then they're very difficult at pushing back afterwards. So I feel comfortable. So what we're going to do, we're going to throw a Trench. We're going to take 1. We're going to go to 1, and we're going to pass.
Call an ambulance!
Because I am confident. I'm fairly confident that we can push lethal damage this turn. I'm fairly confident that we can, at the very least, put a good amount of pressure on to where we're going to keep Vynnset on the back foot for the rest of the game. This could not have been a better draw, so we're just going to fire Remorseless for 5, Rain Razors, then Snaps, into Codex, into Falcon Wing, fire for game. That is how we're closing this game. That is how this game is going to be closed. Because this is going to demand at the very least 2 cards. We're going to Snaps, we're going to go Codex, we're going to demand even more cards. See, boom, 2 cards right there. And then we're going to go, this is going to be 2. And the thing is, but the good thing about having both Trench and Bullseyes is I was able to block with Trench to get the 1 block, is you now have more flexibility in terms of like what you can get value out of. You can block with one and then use the other, or if I was playing much faster I could have used this one. It really depends. You have more flexibility there, which is really, really good. So now we're coming in for 5. We're probably going to be demanding that Tunic unless they have something else they can use. Can they? Nope, they had a 2 block. Nope, they were done. They were done regardless. So that's game 1. So this game is actually going to be against Zen. Very scary in the MST meta, in every meta basically, every format. So we're going to switch to Balance because of Art of War, and we're actually going to swap out this Murky Water for a Battering Bolt. Murky Water is a great late game card, but Battering Bolt is really good at sniping out those Transcend cards and forcing Zen to block, which is kind of what we want to do. Fantastic hand. Fantastic, fantastic. We got Seek and Destroy, Infecting Shot, Lace of Inertia, and an Inertia Trap. The Inertia Trap is really what we're looking for here, because even if it does not trigger, we still get a 5-card hand, and what we're ideally looking for is if he buffs up anything, which he likely will. It's Zen. Knowing Zen's game plan, he's gonna buff something. It's gonna be like creating a Tiger. It's gonna be plus go again. It's gonna be go again. So we're gonna throw this in front, and we're going to block out the next one with an Inertia Trap, hoping that it is buffed in some way. Or if he creates a Tiger, we're going to let him create the Tiger. And it's buff power. Perfect. So we're going to actually let this hit, but we're going to trigger the Inertia Trap just to get that 1 damage ping in. And the 5-card hand. Was it worth it? Probably not, but that's fine. Start with Seek and Destroy. And we're going to pitch. Probably not a good idea to pitch that, but you know what? I say fuck it, we ball. We're going to fire the Falcon Wing for just a measly 6 damage, which they're probably more than going to be happy to take. And I'm going to be more than happy to say, take the damage. Now you're not going to get an Arsenal card, which is fantastic. Then we're going to go Premeditate. And Lace with Blood Rots. So that's going to be 11. That's 15 damage. That's representing 15 points of value because you're going to get 2 Blood Rots. And the Ponder is, you could say it's 18 because Ponder represents another card on hit. So theoretically, it's 18 damage or 18 points of value with the Ponder. At the very least, it's really demanding cards. Or at the very least, armor, which is exactly what we got. And now he's got 2 Blood Rots. If he does not pitch those, he's going to go down to 1, which is going to mean any trap is going to kill him. And look at what we got in here. We got a Tar Pit Trap. Perfect Art of War. Now we can make value out of this Balance of Justice. This is great. This is great. The Zen thinks, he's thinking that he's in the driver's seat. He's like, ah, yes, I'm going to get my, my good full grip, and I'm going to swing at this goddamn Riptide, and I'm going to finish him off. But in reality, we're the ones in control of this game because, ladies and gentlemen, because, guys, gals, non-binary pals, we have not only a drill shot, a 0 for 4, but we also have Codex of Frailty, meaning we can grab any card from our graveyard. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to say no blocks on this one, and we're going to fire off Tar Pit Trap to deal another ping of damage. 4. Now, if he does not respect those Blood Rots, this is our game. We've technically have presented lethal on turn 1. We have killed Zen in 1 turn. Chat, like this is genuinely really good. We're gonna let this hit. It's 1 damage. I want to get as much block value out of the balance as I can. Ideally, I want to wait till he swings the Kakara. I'm gonna block 2, take 3. Gonna let that mask trigger. That's fine. Probably shouldn't have, but oh well. I didn't realize it was a 3rd chain link. That's a misplay, but that's fine. That is fine. That is okay, chat. That is okay. I'm so used to Zen's playing Traverse the Universe that, like, I didn't expect the draw off of the mask, but that's okay. We still get our draw, and it's another pump. Would you look at that? So, literally, no matter what happens this turn, Zen's going to probably have to keep both of these cards. If he doesn't, he's more than likely dead because of the Blood Rot Poxes. But either or, we are still going to... This game's still going to basically be ours. Tiger and the Tiger Swipe. This is... Look, we're going to have a 5-card grip, and that is game, chat. We killed a Zen in 1 turn. 1 turn. Now, if that is not showing the power of this Riptide deck, I don't know what does. Okay, this game is going to be against an Arakni Solitary Confinement. A pretty potentially scary hero in the Blitz meta, simply because he has access to not only stuff like Bonds of Agony, almost said Bonds of Ancestry, Bonds of Agony, and Persuasive Prognosis, but his hero ability naturally gives it go again, which is pretty goddamn scary. I'm going to switch into this Battering Bolt, simply because it can also snipe out attack reaction cards, which is, you know, we don't want those. Not a good opening hand. We're going to pitch in Death Dealer to cycle out some cards, and then we're going to just pass, arsenaling this Premeditate. Not good for a turn 0 hand, but that is fine, because, chat, we have this Buzzsaw Trap. We have... So if Arakni tries to throw something like a Bonds of Agony, like Persuasive Prognosis, like something that's going to be really detrimental in terms of the on-hit, we can just block with this and call it a day. And that's even perfect. Prowl. So this is we're gonna let this hit simply because we don't really care. It's got no on-hit. It's raw damage. It's fine. We can take it. And this is automatically turning on our trap, because this is saying that the next card with stealth gets +1, which is perfect. Perfect, 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 perfect. Now our trap is triggered, so as soon as he attacks, and this is Bonds of Attraction, he probably has 2 reactions up there, but we're gonna see. Gonna see what attack reactions he plays. If he plays none, we're gonna actually save this trap, because there we go. I knew it. I knew it. I called it. You know, call me Kobe, because I never fucking miss. Gonna let that resolve, but then he's not gonna expect it. He's not gonna expect it. Buzzsaw Trap. That is 5 points of value off of 1 defense reaction. I don't think any other defense reaction can get you that kind of value off of just 1 card, which is... Riptide is just insane value when you really think about it, when you really get into the nitty-gritty, when you really see the cards in action. Riptide just has really good value overall. And this is perfect. We're going to present... not lethal, but some really powerful, a really powerful turn. We're gonna go Premeditate, release the tension, Bolt and Shot for 13, which is just, that is crazy. So it's 13, representing getting a Ponder, which represents at least, if a card is 3 points of value, that it's at least 6 more points of value. So you could, in theory, say that this is 19 points of value. You could. I wouldn't. But, and potentially more with the release attention, if that's like a sync blow or something in the arsenal. It's very possible. And we're taking out a surgical extraction from his hand and a leave no witnesses, both snapping it from the hand, which is fan-fucking-tastic. And an Art of Desire, but we are just taking the entire hand. Yep, we're grabbing the entire hand just to cover this up, but on the plus side, we now have another full grip to go off of. So while Arakni is going to be drawing up, we're going to pitch, load infecting shot, go pump, fire infecting shots. And what I think we're actually going to do is we're going to go snaps, bullseyes, fire this drill shot for 5 more, simply because we want to grab the pressure. We have the pressure going, chat. We need to keep the pressure going. I know it might seem a bit like silly to, try to get that value now, but if we get it now, we need to have pressure, and them having like this many cards, not ideal. Even if it's 5 more raw damage, that's still a quarter of their life in Blitz, which is, that's a lot of damage. And we're already up in the fatigue game. They got 28 cards, we got 30. Plus, we can use our quiver to cycle more cards. So we're ahead in the fatigue. Fatigue-wise, we're ahead. We are winning the fatigue race, which is not very normal for Rangers, funny enough. Normally, Rangers lose the fatigue, but... And now we got the spiciest of traps against Arakni, Solitary Confinement, which is Spike Pit Trap. We're going to see if Arakni is going to activate anything. If not, we're just going to throw this inertia trap in front of it. Not ideal because we're not getting the full value out of the trap. It's not triggering. However, you know what? You know what's even better? We're going to activate this Spike Pit and mill some more cards and ping at least 2 points of damage. So again, chat, this is 1 card representing 5 points of value. 3 off the block, 2 off the damage minimum because because it gets 1 from the effect triggering and at least 1 more from the milling, but possibly up to 6. We can get up to 6 extra points of value off of this in Blitz. I don't know about you, but that is value town. We are just, man, we are cooking with gas. Yep, and that's an extra 1 damage, and we sniped a Just a Nick. That is fantastic. Holy shit. And they are going to do a Spreading Plague into a Shred, which is fine because looky, we got an inertia. Actually, we're gonna let this resolve first and then fire the inertia trap just so we don't get the extra damage off of that. Layering is very important when you're playing Riptide. Is you got to make sure certain things resolve first. Like especially when it comes to like traps triggering, you got to make sure certain things resolve so the traps have the opportunity to resolve. But that's pretty basic. You guys probably already know that. Now we're going to come in with a Remorseless for 11, threatening a Blood Rot and a Frailty. Frailty shuts off the daggers. That is already value we're getting there. Blood Rot is an extra 2 points of value, which is fantastic. And Remorseless is going to be at the very least 1 extra point of damage if Arakni activates anything. And they're hitting us with an inertia trap. Interesting. Which doesn't even matter. We don't even have anything in arsenal, but that's okay, because they have now spent their entire suite of armor. They are on the back foot. And this is not a great hand. This is a brick hand. Now, normally, we would just throw Crown of Providence in front and hope to redraw something better, but what we're going to do is we're going to activate Quiver, pitching both of these, and grabbing 3 arrows to sink, and then we're going to pass, throwing a Lace of Frailty in the arsenal. Not an ideal turn, but you know what? It's fine. Bricks happen. That's variance. We're still ahead in basically every other aspect. We got more life, we got more cards, and we got more armor than them. And we got 2 traps in hand that are almost certainly going to trigger. Which is, we're ahead. We're ahead. So this is going to be go again. So what we're going to do is we're just going to fire off Frailty Trap to get that ping. And then this is immediately going to also make the next one trigger our Inertia Trap, which is exactly what we want, chat. Surgical Extraction. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to throw our Crown of Providence in front of it, sinking our nothing. We're not going to sink anything, actually. We're just going to pass, and then we're going to throw Inertia Trap to fully cover it. Inertia Trap didn't trigger. Big sad. Not a fan of that. But you know what? It's better to preserve our hand, to preserve our life total, than anything else. We're just going to go pump Codex into grabbing Bolt and Shot, firing for 10. It's important that when you use Quiver to always keep a 0-cost arrow in your arsenal, in your graveyard, because if you have a 0-cost in your graveyard, Codex is always on the line, no matter what your hand is, no matter what you have in your hand. If you have a 1-cost, it can work, especially with stuff like Trench, but the thing is, if you have a 0-cost, you can just go pump Codex, fire for damage, which is the ideal line. They're going Sink Below. That is A-okay in my book. Because again, pressure-wise, they're going double Sink Below for blocking 8s, so they're taking 2, but they're getting 2 frailty tokens, which is fantastic. And this could not be a better hand. So we're going to throw a Falcon Wing to take 1. We're actually going to save this for the pitch because Battering Bolt is at 6. We're actually going to take this damage simply because Battering Bolt is such a powerful on-hit because it snipes out all their reactions. And it deals 1 damage for each reaction, and assassins have a lot of reactions in their deck typically, so just being able to snipe those is really, really useful. Now see, what they just did there is pretty dangerous because they fired this just to get it out of their arsenal rather than have it destroyed by Seek and Destroy, but by firing this, they gave me an attack with Go Again, and I could trigger my traps to do more damage. It didn't really matter that much, but that could have been an extra point of damage, which could have been potentially dangerous. So this is 12, and they're potentially more damage with Inertia sinking cards. Which, again, Battering Bolt in, basically you want to run this in any MST match, or any MST hero with stuff like Enigma, with stuff like New, with stuff like Zen, because it snipes those Transcend cards, and any Assassin hero, simply because, well, 1, we get full knowledge of their hand. Now we know they're going to go Desires into Leave No Witnesses, which is, you know, pretty good line, but we don't want to allow that. That is not what's going to happen here. It's not very okie dokie. Luckily, we drew a Tar Pit trap, so we can just throw the Tar Pit right in front to cover it up nice and to cover it up quite nicely. Not going to arsenal anything, because now by covering this, when they throw the Leave No Witnesses, we do not have to worry about the on-hit. We do not have to worry about losing cards from our graveyard. All we have to do is worry about the raw damage, which is just going to be for 1 point of damage, which is not that big of a deal at this point. And then we're just going to go Death Dealer, loading Infecting Shot, and firing it for 5. We have a Frailty Trap, which is almost guaranteed to trigger if Arakni throws any attack with Stealth, which, you know, they probably have tons of. And again, we are ahead in every facet of this game. I'm telling you, chat. I am telling you. We are ahead by every measure. Paying for 1 from the Frailty. It's not great that they're going to possibly be able to snag something from our hand, but you know what? At this point, we really don't care that much. It's not that big of a deal. We are just that ahead in life and in card advantage that it's not really that big of a deal at this point. We're just going to fire this for 6. If it hits, load Remorseless and fire, or we're going to snipe 2 cards from their hand, and then we're going to be on the front foot again next turn. Arakni decides to give us 2 cards, so we're just going to Arsenal and pass. And looky, we got that Collapsing Trap, so we're going to actually just ruin their whole day right now by declaring pass and declaring... Oh. That was... I should really be respecting their reactions a bit more here. I am not playing as well as I could be. This is, you know, it's okay. This is a learning experience. This is just showing the power of this deck, chat. You can misplay, you can play poorly, and you can still win. That just shows how insanely powerful Riptide is. So we're just gonna pitch, We're going to load in an endless arrow, and we're going to fire for 7, basically demanding, at the very least, 2 cards from their hand, and then demanding another one to pitch for Blood Rot, or they're going to lose. And that is game, chat, because the best thing they could do is go block, block, pitch this, and then I'd have a full 5-card grip to finish them to their 1 card. So I didn't play as well as I could have in this game, but I think that just really shows the power of this deck, that I can play like dog shit and still win. So as you can see, guys, this deck is just absolutely pure fucking value. It is so good. You're able to push really high damage aggressive turns, and when your opponent swings back or tries to swing anything, you have these awesome traps that you can block with and still put pressure on while being defensive. It is so fucking insane. And even the legendary traps give you so much value off just 1 card. It's crazy. Decklist is going to be in the description on Fabry. Feel free to use it, and if you guys do any replays or play with the deck or anything like that, feel free to tag me. I would really like to see how you guys actually use this deck, or even if you change it or upgrade it or whatever, I would really like to see that. But let me know what you guys think of this down below. Let me know what you guys think of this kind of like deck tech video. I'm trying something different here, but let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe, follow me on Twitter and shit. Bye.